Want to welcome everybody to another edition of our halftime chat R&B podcast, and it's I'm here with Lorena from Total R&B, and of course our special guest and a very good friend, Mr. Shawn Rivera.
It's a
I
pleasure
finally
to
got
be
out there.
back. Thanks for having me again. For those of you who've tuned in and watched some of our previous interviews, I've been known for correcting the record and digging up all sorts of things, speaking out on drama. But today, we're going to keep it especially positive because we're going to celebrate the achievements of
Yeah.
an album which is still being celebrated 30 years on. This year marks the 30th anniversary of
Wow.
As eponymous self-titled album.
Wow. Goodness.
Let's go.
Yes. You know, it's only now that we've gone live that I recognize, Sean, that normally you used to be like in a room by a wall, and maybe that would win you out in Philly. So you seem to be in a much more um, scenic location this time around.
Full disclosure, I'm still up against the wall, but thanks to the magic of technology, I've got a Zoom backdrop. And you
Oh
see
my
the way my
goodness.
arms are disappearing? Hey, who needs AI?
Oh Lord have mercy. Sorry to spoil that. So I
No,
was
it's
like,
okay,
well,
but I'm not in Philadelphia. I don't have, by the
okay.
time you guys watch this, I might be in Montreal.
Oh,
Oh. Okay. Lorena, how have you been?
I've been good. I've been cold. It's freezing over here, but
Oh,
I've been doing good.
is it colder than the east coast of the US?
I don't know. Yesterday it was freezing. Like my face felt like pins and needles were pricking at it. It was super cold yesterday. Oh yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I think on average it's colder up north, but today it was 7 degrees here, so I can only imagine how cold it is in Montreal. Unless you're having an unseasonably warm day, you got me beat.
Mm, not at all. I wish.
So I remember I went to college out in Milwaukee, and my university was right on the cliff of the Lake Michigan, and the windshield, just the wind itself was in a minus, and you always had to put heat in your engine to make sure your fuel doesn't freeze up. So, yeah, yes, those were some crazy days. Um, okay, talk about this As Yet debut album, um, and I guess maybe some background to everything because um, yourself because I think for those who might not know, we may see the five on the album, but when As Yet started, those were the original five who started it all, right?
Yes. Um, so first of all, I will be info dumping. Feel free to jump in at any time. You know, it's just my way. Um, First of all, it's been 30 years, so if I forget anything, leave it in the comments. But the original group was known as Yet Untitled, founded in 1989, which was myself, Dion Allen, Damon Core, Claude Thomas Jr., and a year later came Kenneth Terry Jr. That group auditioned for Babyface. Uh,
Oh,
we got signed 2 years before we brought Mark Nelson in. A lot of people don't know that. And it kind of shocked me that some folks really thought that we needed Mark to get signed when we were already recording the record. Babyface fell in love with the original group, As Yet Untitled. But due to some personal indiscretions and all sorts of other drama that happens in groups, um, Mark was brought in to replace Claude Thomas Jr., and Dashawn Benson was replaced by Daryl Anthony. Um, and then that first album, this album, As Yet, was a year in the making before we got to release Last Night as our first single on the Nutty Professor soundtrack. There are a lot of great producers who we'd worked with who are just as heavy hitters as the ones on this record who didn't get the opportunity to have their music released, and it's an injustice. I say an injustice, but as you know, with your particular background, you got to see some of the wheels turning behind the scenes, and I would like to say that I know that it's popular for many reasons these days to hate on Babyface due to whichever artist walked away disgruntled. And I just want to say that nothing that happened to As Yet was out of the realm of what was going on in the industry at large. It doesn't
Mm.
make it ideal. However, the education and experience that I gained from working alongside of the greatest producers of our era, and some might argue of all time, you can't buy that kind of education.
Mm.
And if you're watching, thanks for watching, Face. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you to everyone that contributed. Keith, Andes, you know what's good. And we're going to get into all of the names of the people
Yeah.
who produced. And like I said, you may know, you may remember some things I don't. So building up to the situation, the group almost didn't happen. We almost lost a deal. We recorded for a year, and then we sat knowing that we had these hits. It was every day felt like a year, because it's like, when
Wow.
are we going to come out? Jesus, like these songs are hot. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
The so with Mark and Daryl joining, did they join after the songs were recorded, or and you had to re-record?
Well, no, because we recorded for a year, and some of those songs, um, most of those songs didn't make the record. We were
Oh.
being given, well, as you know, how sometimes back in those days they developed artists. So
Mm.
Clive Davis and his affiliates took the strategy of recording 100 songs to choose 10, that sort of thing.
Wow.
So we recorded a lot of material, and a lot of it was great. It wasn't, you know, because the songs weren't good. It's just we kept getting better. Keep in mind, this was our first professional
Mm.
recording scenario. They're putting us in media coaching, choreography, had us running and singing every day, sitting with PR people and coaches and all these things, like
Okay.
all the other aspects of grooming us and stylists.
Okay. Yeah.
So in the meantime, things were happening with the group that became a problem that couldn't be avoided. And it's a great thing that we didn't have the internet back then, because I'm sure we would have been canceled several times over when your mistakes are made in public.
Wow. Okay. Okay. How was it then if the three of you had been together for a good 5 6 years prior to Daryl and Mark coming in? How do you then adapt the chemistry to bring people in and then almost feel about the guys who actually didn't go the
Well,
journey
that's
with
a great question, because number one was that Daryl came in first, and I might have left something out. Uh, is that when we sang for Babyface the first time to audition, and he said he loved the group, Daryl wasn't in the group. But when Claude was replaced, we still hadn't signed. So technically, four of us signed the actual deal, but a different group sang for Babyface. You know what I'm saying? So we were in negotiation. He'd already said he was going to sign us. We had a letter of intent, and Daryl came in at the perfect time, because we needed someone to fill that voice, and he was a good look for the group, and he's very talented. So I didn't want it to seem as though he wasn't a part of getting a sign. As a matter of fact, when we had to re-audition with Daryl in the group, because they
okay.
weren't sure if the elements had changed. Mark was brought in a year afterward. So again, I apologize, Daryl. I don't want to diminish your
Yeah.
contribution.
Was it supposed to be four
It
of
was
you or
never
five?
supposed to be 4. We were always 5, always 5. Although there are pictures of us from the early days with 4, there was a window of time before we had Kenny in the group where we were operating as 4, looking for a fifth. We always wanted a bass. We always wanted a tenor.
Okay.
Kind of like New Edition, how each person had their own lane.
Okay.
So, 5 was always the magic number for us.
Okay. 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 And when by the time you audition, for Babyface, it was Daryl, and Claude.
No, we auditioned for Babyface with Claude. He loved
Oh no,
us, and then
after
while
he,
we were in the negotiation phase,
yeah,
before we actually signed on, Claude left the group for personal reasons,
yeah.
and then we needed a replacement. And Jacqueline McQuarn, who was not yet our official manager but was acting as such, she said, "Well, we got to find someone." Um, and shout out to Josh Thompson, by the way, because Josh Thompson is connected to two different members of the group that came and went, and we'll get into that because I know everyone watching, assumedly, is a fan. So
Mm.
there's right now, I know there's somebody saying, "Well, wait a minute, I saw y'all moving around with four." Yeah, that was after Mark left, and then we had Ladon come in. So Daryl brought Ladon in at one point, and Daryl and Ladon both worked with Josh Thompson. So shout out to Josh
Okay.
Thompson. Anyhow, um, and again, if anyone was there when it happened, feel free to fill in the blanks in the comments. But there was never a point when Daryl and Claude were in the group at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Um, then I guess I wondered then who left for Mark to come in.
Okay. So actually, you know what? Like I said, correct the record. Dashawn left after we had already moved to California, after we had signed with LaFace, after we had started recording a few songs.
Wow.
There were issues which have since
Okay.
been corrected. We're actually really good friends now. After all of this is said and done, shout out to Dashawn. I know he's watching. That's my boy. But he had some issues that could not be fixed, and issues. Make a long story short, um, when he left the group, it was suggested to us because Dion and I had met Mark before, years before, when he had left Boys to Men or was put out, depending on whose story you believe. And
Mm.
so we knew Mark because he was from Philly. It was he was known to the record label because he was already a session singer and
Yeah, yeah,
writer
yeah,
with
yeah,
Faze,
yeah.
but we knew him as our boy from Philly, and the rest of us were from the same area. So we never said, let's find somebody that used to be like, in Boys to Men, but it was to our advantage from a marketing standpoint. But
Mm.
if you knew the streets and the areas that we came from, the last thing we thought was that they were going to put us in white suits and make us their competition, because we had our own sound. We knew them. Shout out to
Mm.
Mike McCary. I just saw him
Yeah,
back.
yeah, he was us.
And
Yeah, yeah,
we've
yeah.
been friends since we were all in the trenches when we were unsigned artists.
Oh,
So
you okay? You knew
yeah,
that Boys to
we
Men.
we
Okay.
never set out to be their competition. Because again, nobody knew who either of us were in 1989, 1990. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Mm.
So most people, they see the end product and don't realize the process that led to the decisions that were made. You know?
Okay. Okay. Lorena, any questions? I don't want to hog the life.
No, I just wanted to know because you said that you guys recorded before there was like a switch in members. So
Hmm.
does it sound different from what we got to hear as the first album?
Well, I'll put it this way. Um, Babyface has a signature sound. The 90s R&B has a signature sound.
Mhm.
But I got to be honest, nothing sounds the same without Mark Nelson. I mean, you can tell his voice is very recognizable. It's like Slim from 112. When you hear it, you know who's whining. You know that sound. Like,
Mm.
so that would be foolish of me to say, "Oh no, you could never tell the difference." If it was the same without him, we wouldn't have brought him in. However, Dashawn's was more of a lyric baritone. He's a baritoner, and he had more of a belt to his voice, which was great. But Mark's voice sits in a track and it cuts through a very specific way, which was very suitable for Babyface's writing. So I understood why Kenny chose him, because he'd already recorded with him. And it also worked to our disadvantage because um, the songs were written and demoed by Babyface first in his key. And we only had one actual tenor, and Daryl was probably the next highest register, but his voice was a different type of voice style that wasn't necessarily what Face was looking for. So I mean, and I won't say that because obviously he looked for all of us, found all of us, heard all of us, chose us. But what I'm saying is that when you listen I wish I had a copy. I used to have cassette copies of Babyface's original demos of each. He demoed all the songs that he wrote in one take, and they were flawless. Like you could have put them out just like that. Now he's on tour singing the songs that he wrote for other people. However, I lost a lot of masters and things in fires and floods over the years, storage
Wow.
mishaps, you name it. Um, but that being said, uh, when it came time, when Mark came in the group, he literally auditioned. He sang for not even 30 seconds, and we knew he was the guy. You know, he's got a magic voice. We knew. We were like,
I
"Yep,
mean, I've heard Mark live. Yeah,
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 he's the truth." So, shout out to Mark Nelson.
yeah. I think. I mean, you could hear him throughout the album, and I guess there are songs that, and when we go through each of the songs, are there? I couldn't. I mean, I could only recognize Mark, and I could recognize Kenny, of course. But
And
apart from,
I will say this,
mm,
nothing personal to Mark, but I did think he was overused because
mm,
before he was brought in, we did have more of a balanced sound
ah,
where we chose the registers and ranges
mm,
to suit the parts of the song.
mm,
However, when you write your songs a cappella, you can decide what key to start and end in. When you're working with the top producer in the world, you take what he gives you and love it.
mm,
And we did. However, he wrote everything in a tenor key. So Kenny Terry really stretched to get up there with Mark. And like you said, when we go through certain songs,
mm.
uh, yeah, things understood will be explained.
Okay, okay.
Lorena, you are such a good listener. You're the smartest person in the room, I can tell, because you pay attention to everything. I know
I'm
you can sing too.
I'm taking all this in. I'm learning. This is great. I love this.
Oh, no, what did you make of the album?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I really liked it. So I'm like the young one here. So this is like my first go around listening to this album in full. And I really enjoyed this album. Like every track on the album is so good. So I think even after doing this, this album is still going to be in rotation for me. Like it's
Mm.
that good.
You're just saying that because it's true.
No,
Oh,
I swear. No, I'm like I'm super serious. Like it's a really good album. So and I've never listened to it in full. Like yes, I of course I know Last Night. Like who
mm,
doesn't know that song? But the whole album is just it was well done. It's cohesive. Like everything. I every track was great.
thank you, thank you.
I would say that I hadn't listened to the full album as well until we agreed to do this, and I would say that I listened to the album and I was really upset. I listened to all the songs and I was really angry, and I was angry because I was like, this is probably one of the best group albums I'd heard from the 90s, and yet it wasn't successful. It should have done minimum of
I listen. It was
triple.
nominated for a Grammy. It was double platinum. If that's not successful in the era of selling physical copies, I don't know what is.
No, I think it should have been much bigger,
I agree.
especially yeah,
I agree.
especially whose idea was it to choose Hard to Say I'm Sorry as this follow-up single to Last Night?
Yours truly. So, first of all, I want to backtrack a second because
Okay.
when I listened to the album, it took me years. I don't listen to it often because it's kind of like when you when you make a movie, a lot of actors don't want to watch their own movie because I can't listen to the music without remembering every single traumatic moment, every ounce of pain. For everyone tells me how many it's a no skips album, but there are
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
songs I wouldn't have put on the album personally because I'm a producer, I have a different type of ear, I'm biased,
Mm.
but therapy works wonders and I can listen to it without cringing these days. It's an awesome album. But to get to the point, you were you pointed out that it should have been a bigger success,
Yeah.
and we all
Triple,
agreed at the
quadruple.
time. We thought relative to what was out at the time that
Mm.
we were head and shoulders, talent wise, above
Mm,
our competition, or at least on par with. We've toured with and worked with these folks personally. So it was never, for me at least, not a thing of competition. We
mm.
just wanted to display our talent. Now, um, I'm sorry, there was a second part to your question. I want to make sure I get to it.
No, no, no. Good. My question was going to be why did Hard to Say I'm Sorry was
Oh,
a
okay.
folk
See,
single,
I
but
always forget about me. That's my biggest problem. Um, Hard to Say I'm Sorry came about because during the process of recording the album, right, I was asked to do an arrangement because at the time I was the arranger for the group after Claude Thomas left. And that was my thing. I put together harmonies and it's fun. So
mm.
I got uh, a bad relationship ended with me balled up on the floor in the corner, uh, trying to find a way to get my mind off of things. And I always loved Hard to Say I'm Sorry. I was one of those people that watched The Karate Kid and Peter Cetera and, you need a man who will fight for your honor. Right. I don't know. I'm a sap like that. I just love sappy songs, but it's not a sappy song. Sometimes songs can transcend styles if it's a well written song. But it just came to me one day that today will be the day because it's hard for me to say I'm sorry when she was the one that messed up. So I had a Tascam Porta Studio, which is like a cassette-based multi-track. You can record 4 tracks, but then I bounced the 4 track and sang the 5th note as it was playing to get 5 notes onto a 4 track cassette. Took that cassette to Face's house. Now, he has multiple properties, but at the time, I got invited to spend a couple of weeks out in Lake Tahoe with Babyface and others, the who's who of whoever happened to still be around during the holidays. And I pop in this little cheesy cassette into this multi-million dollar studio, and everybody got real quiet. And I'm sitting in the corner like, what do you think? And Kenny looks over at me, Babyface, not to be confused with Kenny Terry. He looks over at me and says, you know what? We're going to record this when we get back. And I was like, okay. And then I promptly left the room and like screamed into a pillow. I was I was blown away. Like I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that that's all the stuff that had happened that he actually allowed me, quote unquote, to participate as a co-producer and arranger. And then when we finished the way that the song was recorded, the group got together and like we always did, and we all learned our parts first. It wasn't like one of those things where everybody goes in one at a time and then layers it. We did layer it, but before we even came to the studio, he wanted to hear us sing it live. So
Mm,
we sang it live down first. Then he had us go in and record all together in sections. Then he had us record each part 4 times in double stereo. And at certain points, it was a beautiful thing. At certain points, he says, look, you know what? You got this. I'm gonna go and do whatever I have to do. So he like left me like you have the helm. I felt like Captain Mr. Riker taking over. Number one, you have the helm. And then when we finished the recording, Babyface says, "Hold on a minute. I got to make a call." And he speakerphones David Foster and plays. He says, "I got something." I said, "I believe I have something that belongs to you. You might want to hear this." Pushes play, and David says, "Hey, that sounds pretty amazing. You know what? I think I want to be a part of it." And then he played piano on the remix, and then lo and behold, Peter Cetera hears it, and he's one of the original co-writers. But of course, the man who sang the song
mm,
says, I'm going to be in town. I'd love to sing on the remix. And there's a version with a video with Peter Cetera singing the last verse out where Mark is. There's a
mm,
version that's piano with us singing. And the album version is actually the original arrangement with just Babyface's. He did like a boom, boom, boom. He made us beat on our stomachs to do
mm,
like some of the, but it's real tucked, is real tiny in there. But all he did was put that beat and snap in, and the rest is a cappella.
mm.
So it's a beat cappella on the album version, and then the single version has the David Foster remix, which was nominated for a Grammy for Best R&B Vocal Performance Group or Duo in 1998. All right.
Okay, but then, but I'm saying that normally the A&R and the labels will say, okay, with last night is such a hit. Let's try and get a single that can just that's similar that could just really push it in.
I agree. I thought it was a little premature to cross over before we had even got one foot on one side to go to the other side. However, it did, in hindsight, we were dead in the water anyway. We're lucky we even got that far. I mean, seriously, when I say this, we just sat here and talked about how wonderful the record is. We just sat here and talked about how wonderful it is working with these great producers. But what people don't see is that a house divided amongst itself can't stand. The label
Hmm.
was on its way to being dissolved. The
Oh
group
yeah.
was going through its own internal problems. So we got to have kind of the mini career all in one album. And our competition, quote unquote,
Voice of Man.
112 and
Okay.
Silk and all the groups that were out around that time, um, they were all on different tours that summer. And part of their contingency clause was that if we were on the same tour with them, they would not do it. Because when we did Valentine shows together, the crowds were a little too favorable to us.
Wow.
So we got kind of blackballed by other artists who will not be named. So Hard to Say I'm Sorry took us to 40 countries while everybody else was doing the 50 states. So we would never have gotten to go to
Wow.
Sweden, Germany, Amsterdam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, etc. if it wasn't for that crossover song. But
Ah,
I would have waited until the second record to put anything like that out as a single. Even though I
yeah.
think it fits well on the first album, I wouldn't have picked it as a second single either. And I'm
Yeah.
saying that as somebody who stood to gain the most by putting it out. I still wouldn't have done it.
Which single? I mean, Lorena, I'll ask you, and this is not your top 10 stuff, but if you were to think of a song that you would have put as the second single after last night, um,
Hard.
It's hard for you to pick a single.
It is. Oh my gosh, that's so much pressure.
Uh,
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know.
well, while you're thinking about it, I will say this. There was a proposed third single, which was leaked to radio here. I'll say here, there, and everywhere. But there's Arrow Through My Heart, which is the song that was written by Brian McKnight.
mm,
Um, there were some stations in Philadelphia, Baltimore, New York, where they were playing it just voluntarily. And that would have made a great second single because it was similar. And Brian was like at the top of his game
mm,
then.
mm.
I thought that could have made a good second single.
Yeah, I mean, I have, um, I listened to it and I had two possibilities. It was either "Save for Someone Else" or
Ooh, good
through
call.
or
Okay.
"Arrow Through My Heart," and I said that these were the two, and so that's why I was upset that actually, if you were going to continue on R&B radio, um,
Mhm.
"Save for Someone Else" or "Through My Heart," the Arrow would have been just piggybacked off that with people like, oh damn, these guys have songs and it's a similar, and so
Yep.
that's when, and then that Hard to Say I'm Sorry probably was a contemporary song, but it just then it took you guys away from, because you could have done this, and I think easily Boys to Men would have been like, oh my goodness, we're done for.
They've
If
already said that. It's funny that you say that. Number one, you are. I keep forgetting that you're an industry veteran who also worked with the same circle back then. You called it. When it comes to the way things turned out, and like I said, I wouldn't have put Hard to Say I'm Sorry out, but I watched an interview, a podcast. Questlove had Boys to
yeah,
Men on their
yeah, yeah, yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
Somebody
yeah,
sent me that link where they're like, "Yo, they're talking about you," and they were saying, "Man, when we heard those guys, man, we knew we were done for." But the thing they didn't mention was that they heard us live before we got signed, and I remember who walked away and who moved closer, and it said a lot about how things would turn out later. And I like to think that we're still friends, some of us more than others. Sean, if you're watching, Sean's Unite, Sean Taraj. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, we really thought that we're like, man, if they sold 10 million, we're gonna sell 20. Like we really thought that way, not
No,
out
but
of
it's
arrogance, but
true.
out of
But no, but
honesty.
it is very rare to get an album that the songs are like you're listening to it. So normally I do we do our top 10. I think apart from the top four, I couldn't. All these songs so good that I was like, damn, I was like, nobody has all these bangers in it. And I purposely don't look at the writers and producers until I'd already picked it in order because I don't want to be influenced and biased. But I was like, if it had flowed as I thought it should, definitely should have done 5 million plus. It should have been that Boys to Men lane. Um,
Well, that's assuming that the same push, the same budget was allocated in the same way. There's so many factors. I mean, we may know this, but for the viewers that don't get to see the behind the scenes, there's a reason why um, garbage seems to float to the top. We were raised to think the cream rises to the top, but it's covered in garbage. You have to sift through to get to it. But the thing is, it's the labels tend to promote the majors, especially then, but it hasn't changed much. The labels tend to promote what they have the most vested interest in, the people who reflect their lack of values or are the easiest to manipulate or are
yeah.
related to somebody. There's always favors that need to be repaid, like all this political stuff that has nothing to do with just showing up and making the music. And then it's one of the only businesses in which the people the higher you go up, the less education they have in the art of making the product.
Mm,
Whereas though, if you're a doctor, you don't get you don't get your doctorate because your cousin, you might get into a school because your cousin went to that school, but they're not going to just hand you a degree. But you can
mm.
certainly buy yourself an A&R credit on a record. And if you look at when you do look at the credits, there are way more names on there than actually did any of the work at all. But somebody wanted to be able to put a plaque on their wall and say, I was part of this. And I'm not taking away from all the unsung heroes, but there are
Mm.
definitely political and financial reasons beyond the artist's control as to why so many great albums are under promoted.
Y- Um, if you were signed by LA Reid, do you think you guys would have been a bigger group?
We had that conversation. When I say we, the group amongst ourselves had it, and we had conversations with L.A. Reid because we did sing for him after we were signed. The LaFace used to do these retreats at the Bahamas, and they basically, because they're a boutique label that only puts out 2 artists a year
Hmm.
maximum, there were a lot of artists competing to be the next one out. So even after we're signed, after we've got all these babyface, songs in the kitty, we still had to prove ourselves. So we fly out to the Bahamas, and Tony Braxton's there, TLC, you name it, the who's who, and some artists you might not know, like Society of Soul, um,
Oh,
or of course Goody Mob. There was a group called Choice that had Pink in it before she was Pink. She was Alicia
yeah, yeah,
Moore,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
homegirl.
yeah.
You name it. There was all these
Tony Rich
artists
was he
there.
had he been signed by then? Tony Rich.
Yes, yes. So all of us are basically like in this big hotel resort, and they have a huge conference room with a stage set up, and you wait in your room until you're called down uh, to go and sing and do your thing, and then afterward you can sit and have dinner and watch the other artists. It was great. We sang a cappella, and keep in mind when we sang for L.A. Reid, uh, it was me, Dion, Kenny, Daryl, and Dashawn. Mark still hadn't, this tells you what window this is in, right? So when we saw the writing on the wall that we weren't going to get a third single, we began to have this conversation about LA Reid. And LA Reid had invited us to his office because we'd visited the Peachtree offices a few times in Atlanta. and he had said to us that he wished that he could have done more for us. Um, However, because of the way that we were signed and brought in through Babyface's then mother-in-law,
Mm.
um,
And
and the
brother-in-law.
family connection, we were his artist. It was not something that he could step in and do. Many people recommended that we fire our management, and in some ways we should have done it sooner. Not to any flaws of hers, which were well known, but more so because of timing. You know what I mean? Like when your star is still hot and you've already quote unquote shot your load, you call for a taxi. You don't wait around to see what's going to happen when the writing was on the wall. So I think things may have went differently, except for one thing. Nobody, and I mean nobody, in Atlanta was more qualified than Babyface was to do the record that we got. Atlanta has a specific flavor, and at that time, you know, the Trackmasters and Dallas Austin and Hitmakers
Yeah,
and all these
yeah.
folks, they're
Organized
great.
noise. Yeah.
They're wonderful people as far as, you know, being creative. However, I don't think that the Atlanta sound was our vibe necessarily, and I have yet to hear any other group come out of there that had five-part harmony necessarily, and Babyface was used to working with a certain caliber of artists, and he had more access to old school musicians like Nathan East, who played on Michael Jackson's records, or Greg Gaines, you know, like people who had played with Stevie Wonder. They understand our harmony. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm.
this is no diss to the Atlanta sound, but I don't think, I think LA could have done more for us. LA Reid personally, I don't think he should have, but I understand the game. You know what I mean? But if he had said, "Oh, you're my artist now," and took us to Atlanta and put us with those folks, man, we would be a whole different kind of group. You know,
No, no,
which
but I'm thinking, but the album, you've already got the songs. Last Night is a number one hit.
yeah.
He could, why didn't they just think, let's keep up the momentum? Or was it, we're going to
All
sabotage
right.
this because we don't like face?
Perfect question. So we took a meeting, a label meeting, where the staff is there and our management is there, LA Reid is there, and a whole host of characters. And I personally remember asking, here we are. I said, why is it 6 months after our last single and we still haven't dropped? This is like before we even put Hard to Say I'm Sorry out. And
Oh,
the response that we got, because if you noticed, first of all, let's set this up. Last Night comes out in July. October, we still we're still waiting. Usually there's a 6 week run. Back
mm,
then it was a 6 week run. We peaked, we fell, next single.
mm.
Months and months passed before Hard to Say I'm Sorry even came out. So I asked, I said, is there a reason why, you know, we didn't follow up with the second single? And he said, to be honest, we weren't expecting you guys to blow up the way you did. And I said, well, why did you sign us then? And that's what led to the conversation about us
Oh,
being a
Babyface.
family group,
Uh,
a group of the family. And again, I am not blaming anyone.
no,
Like
no, no,
those
no, of
politics
course.
existed before we walked in. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And again, they believed in us. They signed us. And I saw another interview that where you were mentioning um, the involvement of Tracy Edmonds. And for those who may be misled unintentionally, we did not receive any quote unquote backing from Tracy because she was just getting her film company off the ground. She was financed by her husband, which is an awesome thing that she propped her, you know, set her up
Mm.
because she's brilliant and she's very creative and she did the job. I mean, she put out some great movies. Um, but at the time, she didn't have the leverage that she has now. So I even wondered what would have happened if we had left on better terms, that Tracy could have put out a second record on us after she
On
left.
Yab
I mean,
Yum.
all sorts of things could have happened. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like anyone who is capable of leaving us to our own devices would come up with some music with anybody. I mean, we've worked with hip hop producers, R&B. We could have done an Atlanta five-part harmony record, and it would have been groundbreaking. Who knows?
But I do wonder then, Face was signed to Epic, and he was at the height of his peak of his careers. He could have easily have gone to Epic, Sony, and says, "Guys,
John B went
uh,
there.
yeah,
I'm gonna tell you what I think it honestly is.
okay,
Um, he knew the writing was on the wall with his wife, and he wanted to clean the slate completely of everything and everyone connected to her. Jacqueline McQuarrie was a thorn in the side of everyone in the industry because we were the first artist she ever managed, and she would puff her chest out and use Babyface as leverage, as opposed to sitting down and listening and learning the business. She let her ego lead the way. God rest her soul. There you
mm,
have it. She did the best she could, and she believed in us when no one else did. I'm not trying to shame the dead. What I'm
mm,
saying is that that is the reality on the ground, was that she made it difficult for people to work with us. She turned down opportunities that we never heard about because of her lack of experience. She thought she was our mother, like a momager. Your management, it was already a conflict of interest going in. Now, you know how many people say, oh, you should read your contracts. I read it cover to cover. We read it cover to cover. We talked to the lawyers cover to cover, and we made a calculated risk. We knew what we were getting into. We knew it was a conflict of interest to have our manager be have their bread buttered and be related to the record label. But we used it to our advantage because, again, we got signed. We put out
mm,
a number one R&B single, a
mm,
double platinum record. We got a
mm.
lot of bang for our buck, and 30 years later, we're still talking about it.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, okay, okay. Lorena, kind of see waiting in the wings. Please bring
Well,
in.
no, it was explained because my question was because it's such a good album. Like I was wondering why there wasn't more singles, because we were saying like, yeah, there could have been a different second single, but why wasn't like there a third? But then there was such a gap between the first and the second one. So
Well, I'll just say, if it wasn't for Tracy Edmonds and Jacqueline McQuarrie, we wouldn't have even had a first single. So, I mean, there's two sides to every coin. And on the outside looking in, it just seems so simple. Make great music, put it out, put your money
Mm,
behind it. But what happens is the people, the A&Rs, want to shrink the project to the limits of their lack of imagination. They will mess up a glass of water. I mean, seriously, and they managed not to mess our record up. If the biggest complaint that people have is that we only had two platinum singles, I can live with that. And one of them I happened to co-produce with Babyface, and then fuck, I can live with that. You know,
Oh
I can live with
goodness.
not singing as much as I would have liked to sing on a record. I'd rather ride the bench on the winning team. Shoot.
Oh goodness. Okay. Okay. Um, I guess in the midst of the battles with the label, what was happening internally that could have? Because if you guys were, you think if you guys were all for one for all, they you could have been able to achieve more. Into
Absolutely. Um, like I mentioned before, the group that got Babyface's attention in the very beginning had been together for 6 years in the trenches. Like Dion used to sew our outfits. He would make our outfits, like, cut our hair. I would do arrangements. Claude taught me how to arrange things, but both of us would work together. Then Kenny, I mean, such a beast vocally, that
mm,
like we hung out every day like brothers. We would all day, like 12 hours a day, after work, after school, morning, noon, and night. My shout out to my aunt Dita Carmen. She would make us rice and beans, and we'd all be in the living room just singing. Like
so there's
that
a
was what
brotherhood.
kept us together. We were
Mm.
tighter before the stardom and all of those other things come in and poison it. Now, the version of the group that the world knows and loves, including Mark Nelson and Daryl, um, it is well documented that Mark Nelson contributed to some of the dysfunction that led to our demise. We were forced to remove him from the group, in spite of what some may say, because we signed As Yet Incorporated, signed to LaFace Records. Mark Nelson signed to As Yet Incorporated. So we reserve the right to hire or fire our own employees because our corporation entity is providing you a service. And when anyone willfully deceives, misleads repeatedly, and is given every opportunity to correct the behavior, promises and says everything you need to hear. I mean, how much more narcissistic abuse can anyone take? The label said, "Bring him back." We're like, mm-mm, nope. We came in without him. We're leaving without him. I'm sorry, your audio dropped. I can't hear you.
Sorry, this is
There
after
we
the
go.
first album, so it wasn't a. Was it when you're looking to record the second album that doesn't bring him back?
We were still okay after last night, and after Hard to Say I'm Sorry. There was a window that following summer that we're touring and recording songs for this what would be the second record. We did record enough songs for a second album because we signed a 7 album deal and we were only on the second record, and we got to work with all sorts of great wonderful producers. Shout out to Brian Alexander Morgan. I mean, you should heard the stuff we did with him and with Mike City or the Underdogs, you name it. It was so many great.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
we have a lot of these records. Some of them are out. Like there's a song called "Rainy Day in June" that is one of the only songs that's is floating around under the Underdogs label, that has a 4-member version of "As Yet" with Daryl, Kenny, me, and Dion, each singing leads evenly.
Wow.
That's out there. You can find it on Apple Music. Uh, to get to the answer to that question. Um, we're recording for the second record. In between performing, doing spot dates, and we'd already been back from overseas. Mark was doing things on the road that we could not excuse, and like I said, thank goodness there was no internet, or we would have been canceled. I'll just leave it at that. Because we're trying to keep it positive, but we're always going to
Yeah,
try and
yeah,
be
yeah.
accurate, and honest. And he's welcome to share his side of the story again, and we'll see if it matches the previous side of the story. But make a long story short, Mark Nelson was not the sole reason why the group fell apart. However, there's a certain prevalent attitude. I wish it was just egos, because egos, you can put those to the side if all you're interested in is making money. But I'll say it again. If someone repeatedly causes you harm, damage, deceit, takes food from your children's plate and years off your life when you have to pay for their mistakes and their intentional disregard for your well-being, you don't reward that behavior, you don't rationalize it. There's the sooner you learn that lesson, the
Mhm,
better off your life will be.
mhm.
I was someone before As Yet, I will be someone after As Yet, but I enjoyed most of the time,
Mm,
most of it. Like you take the good with the bad.
yeah. The but which label asked you to bring him back? Was it LaFace?
Okay, yes, LaFace asked us to bring him back. Then we wound up on DreamWorks, which again, you talked about Sony 550 Epic. A lot of the artists that left LaFace dispersed when LaFace dissolved. Artists
Back into
dispersed to
Arista,
other
yeah.
labels. So John B, who was on Yab Yum, which was
Mm.
the sister label to to As Yet to LaFace, he wound up over at
Sony.
Sony 5, yes, which is how I got to work with John B on the first record. We all worked with John B on the first record, but in between that record, I'm working with him. So back to Mark. When we put him out, we had already been through so much that would have been enough for any sane human being to put him in the dirt, like period, in the dirt. But we tried everything. Now, Mark is brilliant at what he does. He's still out there somewhere. He can sing his butt off, but do you know how many talented people wouldn't think to stab you in the back? Most of them. That being said, I wish him the best. But the label said, y'all got to suck it up. No, we don't. No, we don't. Because you're not going to come into something that we built and sacrificed our lives for at the last fucking minute and act like it's your shit. It's not going to happen.
I
period.
know, but LaFace hadn't supported your first album, so why are they looking to support the second?
Because they still want to make money.
Oh, they realized they messed up?
You know what? I can't speak for them, but again, we're still recording for a second album. They're giving us a stipend every month,
Oh,
and and to be fair, some staff had changed. Things were
okay.
different on the ground.
Okay.
And I do believe that L.A. Reid was considering the possibility because he had talked to us about, trying to do more for us. There's a chance that we might have put out a second record. But what I think was happening was they were draining the budget to make sure that all the producers that were signed to them could fulfill their obligations, like giving us busy work while we died on the vine. That's what it felt like. We were just being shelved. Like they're humoring us. Like, you know what? As long as they don't take us to court and don't join a class action lawsuit. By the way, they paid us. LaFace paid us to leave.
Oh.
They paid us to leave, which we made a calculated decision that we could either spend years buried in legal fees we couldn't afford. And if you noticed, unfortunately, hindsight, history has been kind to us in the sense that by the time TLC was free, they were short one member. Toni Braxton, thank goodness she had her sisters in her family, to fall back on and to rise back up with. But in all of that time, I mean, we're talking a decade plus, if not more. Man, I done recorded 300 songs, had a rock band, wrote for film and television. I moved on. I was like, you know what? I've seen enough.
Mm.
People always, they think that if you keep striking the match, it's going to eventually catch fire. But once the head falls off it, I mean, it's a shame how people value celebrity over integrity, and that's just disgusting to me. Sorry.
Wow. Lorena, don't let me hog the limelight here. Anything to add before we get into the album?
I said we were going to keep it positive, man.
I don't know if this is a positive, but I was just thinking because like Mark also did writing with Babyface too. So would that be a reason why they would want him to stay?
Okay. Yes, they had more of a vested interest, and that's a wise insight. And it's also a misconception, that somehow we were jealous because Mark got to write on the record. Now, first of all, I just told you that I got to produce on the record, so maybe I'm personally not jealous. However, I would like to point out that the way Mark's songs got on the record was unethical. What happened was what normally happens, or what should happen, is when an artist is making a record with a major label, they introduce you to different producers, present songs, and sometimes they may suggest a song you don't like. And that's okay. You record everything because you never know. But in this case, we're called into the studio not knowing what we're going to record, and conversations were had unbeknownst to us that they forced those two songs on us. Like, we just show up like, oh, by the way, your boy wrote these two songs for you, and you're doing them. Like, they're already paid for. No discussion. This is the kind of shit that I'm talking about. We're like, it's not that the songs aren't great. They're not my favorite, and it's not because of the way they went about them. I just think that we should have had at least one hip-hop song. We're from the inner cities of Philadelphia with no hip-hop songs. They put us, that's a whole nother story. Not one feature. Number two was Time to End This Book to the Story is one of those songs that, like Namdi was talking about, where they had Mark sing the whole thing, and then at the very end you hear Kenny. I'm like, and that's what they forced. When I say they forced us, every other song on the record, we got to hear it first. We got to hear the demo, at least. These songs, again, we were told when to show up, and we get there, and oh, it's Mark's song. Like, he knew that if he had played them for us, we would have said no, because Mark has written better songs than those two. I don't know what was done in the back rooms, but the evidence of it was obvious. And I thought, you know what? This is how you roll? Like, for instance, going back to Hard to Say I'm Sorry, I did a demo and I played it for Babyface. If he had said no, right? I wouldn't have tried to. Now, the group learned the song before we came in. They heard it first. Nobody said, what is this? Nobody showed up that day and said, oh, we're doing Hard to Say I'm Sorry. You know what I mean? like everybody had the same access to Babyface, by the way. In Mark's defense, anybody could have and should have, if they were consider themselves any kind of writer or producer. Like Daryl, he's a great writer as well, and Mark is a great writer. You know, I like to write songs. We all had opportunities to pitch music. That's not the problem. If you don't, the people who seemed to be the most jealous were the ones who don't write songs. It's the weirdest thing. That being said, um, it's the way you go about things. It's the way you go
Mm.
about it. Like there ain't no way that I could have lived with myself if a budget was cut and I got a check and y'all don't know about it. And these are my brothers. You don't find out until you show up that day. That's just weird to me. Like, just who
Mhm.
does that?
Um, the question here is, can the unreleased second album be found anywhere?
No, because it was unreleased. But no,
No, no.
seriously, seriously,
Sometimes they do. Yeah.
I'll say this. I'm not saying that it's a dumb question
Mm,
because there may be some songs that others have leaked. I wouldn't leak anything that doesn't belong to me. However, I have seen instances where that has happened. For instance, there was a point on YouTube where someone had put out some of our other music that was once released and then pulled down. Now, as far as the songs that we recorded on
yeah.
DreamWorks, that song that I mentioned earlier called Rainy Day in June by the
Mm,
Underdogs, uh, that song was recorded on DreamWorks. So technically, we recorded enough songs for 3 albums. The
Mm.
second album that never came out on LaFace, and then we started over again with DreamWorks.
mm,
So to answer your question, it was never a delivered, completed, and released album for it to be leaked. However, some of the producers who retained the rights to their original material,
mm,
um, would still, if they want to do it legally anyway, would still need the right to use the trademark or the name and likeness of the individuals. I'm all down for it. If you're watching, hey, put it out. I don't care. It's no sweat off my back. If you put it out there, I make no claims to anyone else's music but my own. And, you know, I'm not trying to get, I'm not, listen, they didn't get paid either, but you know, for the stuff that they didn't get paid for. I mean, we're talking back then, they charged, I say they, meaning the average A, B, and C level producers were getting 30 to 50,000, 150,000 if you're at the, you know, the Babyface or Teddy Riley type level. So nowadays, you got people selling beats for $300.
yeah. What? Yeah. Times have changed. Okay.
You
All
know,
right. So, Lorena, before we move into the album, any final questions?
No, but this I learned like a lot about what happened because like you said, I'm on the outside looking in. I'm just discovering this full album for the first time. So to hear all of these like backstories is it's truly amazing and it helps me understand certain things because like I said, I thought I was thinking more singles should have been released and I also feel like more people should be talking about and celebrating the album, especially if it's celebrating 30 years. So, yeah.
yes, especially since I still get paid from the album. So please talk about it, please. You know, I still get my point 0.0005 cents per play. And again, this is another reason why I am not bitter or upset. Like it's man, it's one of the best things that ever happened to me and one of the worst lessons I ever had to learn, all rolled into one. And I've lived to tell the tale. I still got my baby teeth.
So, Lorena, what do you think is the best thing to do today? Do we go through each song from the album from song one down to the end, or do we go through our rank our favorite? What do you think?
I don't we should let Sean pick.
Oh, that's not fair. Look, I'll just say, let's go in sequential order. That way,
Okay.
I'm not picking any favorites.
Okay, okay, okay. Well, we okay. Well, Lorena, I'll let you lead the way.
Oh, okay. So if we're going in order, so the first one, of course, is Last Night.
Yes. So, really quickly, because I know this will be edited for. We're not live, right?
We're alive.
We're live.
Uh-oh. See, I could have posted the link. Okay. So last night we got the demo on a cassette, like I mentioned before, and we knew it was going to be a hit right away. Right away.
Oh wow.
The way it was recorded, it was one of the first songs with him. Like we recorded for a year leading up until then, which was good that we got Mark Nelson before we recorded last night. It was good because he's great at recording. And the way Face works, you better have your stuff together. He gives us the demo. We've got a few days maybe to live with it. And then you come in and everybody lines up. And then we start on verse 1. He's not much for talking, but he's not a mean or harsh person, but he's an introvert like me. I'm info dumping now so I can collapse and then not speak to anyone for 3 or 4 days. So he's very reserved, which makes each word have weight. When he speaks, you know that it's not frivolous. You go down the line and he'll say, okay, we're going to start on the first part, first verse. You know it? No lyric sheet. You better know it by heart. But, he'll say, all right, let me hear you. Last night. And then last night. Okay, cool. Let me hear you. Last night. Last night. Okay, let me hear you. All right, it's going to be you. Get in there. And if you don't get it in the first few takes, or at least so close that like it's worth doing, you'll know in about 5 to 7 minutes whether it's going to be your verse or not. Every song that we recorded, he kept that system. But with last night specifically, it was the first time that I got a sense of like, oh, this is what it should be like. And the reason I say it that way is maybe it shouldn't. Like, if you have the time to get to know the people and do the whole schmoozing thing, that's great. But this man is recording multiple projects at a time. Look, I see you looking up at the clock.
Who's that?
I'm messing with you, but
Okay.
that's how he was. He had stuff to do. And we knew it was going to be a hit right away, even the demo version. Like, smash, smash, smash. Thank you, Kenneth Babyface Edmonds, and thank you, Keith Andes.
Keith
Doesn't
Andrews,
get the
yeah.
glory he deserves for putting together such a magical moment.
So I just have a question with that one too, because you said Babyface, he does all the demos first
Yes.
in one take, which is wild.
Uh-huh.
But then when it's your turn, when he's choosing people to do the different verses and stuff like that, are you guys adding your own spin or are you doing
Oh
it?
yeah. Well, that's the thing. The demo version, for instance, right? The first verse, Mark sang it exactly like the demo because it's the first verse. You don't need to riff or do anything, right? When my verse came, the demo was like really simple. Like he said, I drank. Now I have to do it exactly like him. I drank your wine, and you taste mine. I kissed your lips. You felt my body slip. And he said, into your soul, girl, I heard you moan. And that was how it went. Girl, I heard you moan. And I did my verse in the second take and I forgot the words and just did something. And he's like, okay, come out of there. I'm like, what? No, wait, don't leave that. But Face knows how to keep the happy accidents, how to keep the spontaneity. He was more focused on emotion and intent than on necessarily accuracy, So he really did a great job of like keeping the sound of struggle with every artist he worked with. Like he'll leave a note that's the right kind of wrong or the wrong kind of right. So yeah, and Kenny's part, Babyface, when he actually did give Kenny that run, but of course he's not a bass, so he couldn't do the run. He just said, I need you to go down to the basement. Just give me a low. Well, he couldn't quite hit the note, but we knew what he was trying to do. You know what I mean? The man can sing, obviously. So he knows how to work with singers of all stripes. I mean, if you're working with Whitney Houston, you can tell me how to do a note. We good. Never had a problem working with him ever. Like as far as, him and Kenny Terry not necessarily getting along because they are two opposite types of Kennys. Like there were times like when Kenny Terry would be like, you tell me what you the producer, you're supposed to tell me what to sing.
Oh wow.
And Face would go, okay. And he'd look at me and say, you have the helm and walk out. Like,
Oh, non-confrontational.
he left, and I respected that, but he left me to deal with that sometimes. And it was because I'm used to Kenny. I'd be like, "Oh, bitch, you know what to do. You sing the damn song." I'll give him back his own energy, and because I don't take it seriously. Like, I mean, I respect Kenny Terry's talent so much, but when you know somebody and you came up with them and know them, you kind of know that he may sound angry, but he's really
Mm,
just passionate, and that's just his way. He's that way
mm.
with his mother. He's that way with his friends. Like he's not going to change for anyone, and that's why he sounds the way he does on those records. So
Okay.
you take the good with the
Okay.
bad.
Okay. Well, at least I think we have to credit Babyface for not, because
Smoking a
he
Chanel.
could easily just say, "Do you know who I am? Okay, you guys get the hell out of here and stuff." But
Right,
he
and that's
still
what I'm
thought,
saying. And
"Okay, you know what?
I've seen Kenny Babyface Edmonds do that to.
Oh,
There was a writer, there was a guy. I'm not going to mention his name because I've got enough stalkers and people looking for me right now. But this particular gentleman had presented a song that he did the least amount of work on, that like someone else had helped him with the song, right? And it was cool. It was a nice song. It would have went on the record. I think it would have made the record. We all the group is standing around the piano, and this guy comes in and says, "Hey, Face man, let me talk to you for a minute." You never do that to him. Don't interrupt him while he's working. Don't pull him to the side. Now he don't play that, right? Face was like, "Let me ask you a question real quick. Why don't you play that song that you wrote for the group? Can you play it on the piano?" And the dude froze. Then he says, "Can you play anything? What key is it in?" He's like, "Oh, that's enough for today. Session canceled." That quick.
wow.
That quick. All he had to do was just keep quiet. And but he was trying to squeeze more money out of the situation and all this other stuff.
Squeeze
Like
forward.
some people, some people.
Wow.
So I mean, like I said, he wasn't was never disrespectful to anybody, but he's definitely known to be non-confrontational. And
Mm.
I learned a lot from him. I'm still working on the keeping quiet part though.
Okay, okay. So we've got some last night, which and you knew it was going to be a hit, and it didn't surprise you guys when it blew up as it did,
Not at all.
and,
Not at
and you
all.
guys went to where the $1 million they spent on the video was coming out of your budget.
Which is hilarious because number one, Billy Woodruff doesn't get the credit he deserves for being the pioneer of our green screen Windows 98 video. And when I say that, it's with all love because the youngins don't understand how futuristic that was, man. Like they only use that in movies, man. You got a green screen.
Oh,
I mean, it was a full day's shoot. The single cover for last night was actually not a photo shoot. It was shot on the video set after 12 hours of standing on hard bottom shoes. That's why
wow.
we look like the morning after. Like, but it was awesome. And I thought it was a brilliant video. And we also got to work with Billy Woodruff again on the second video for Hard to Say I'm Sorry.
Okay.
Um, and it was like night and day. He actually incorporated some of the ideas we discussed at the dinner table, you know? So
Mm,
that kind of thing now, maybe you could shoot it at home. But
mm,
back then, the only
mm.
video we had was us at Six Flags Great Adventure, you know, like photo booth style.
Save for me, save for someone else.
Oh yeah. Now I love that song. I think that's one of Mark's most velvety verses. I like where his register sits in there because he starts the verse off, and I love how Kenny Terry sings that the octave down. When do you ever hear that? Like, especially these days. Usually, you start with the low and then you build up. So
Mhm.
Mm,
when you hear that contrast and it jumps down, it's like ooh, ooh. And again, it was the same exact process. I do think that anyone in the group was capable of singing other verses. Like I just had to put that out there. No one is perfect. Nobody's perfect. So what I mean by that is the drawback of Face being so chop chop was that he didn't give enough time for everyone to get the same level of attention to detail in the vocal. And if you me being more familiar with the individual members' textures, I would have put Dion on a part or put Daryl on a part but again, I love that song. We that was one of our favorites, especially that bridge and the harmony and everything else. Mervyn Warren from Take Six, he came at my suggestion. I was asked if anybody like a wish list. They asked everybody, but my suggestion for a wish list of people uh, included Mervyn Warren, and he's from Take Six. He put together a lot of the bridge harmonies in Last Night, Save for Someone Else, and a few other songs. So yes, yes, yes. No horror stories involving that song though. Sorry.
No, but it's still interesting you said because like I appreciate like the verses and where everybody was put in the songs, but I wonder how it would sound like what Babyface would have chose if he would have spent more time with the group and actually
Mhm.
knowing like what everyone is capable of, like what that would sound like.
So, oh, by the way, I keep coming back to that Underdog song because that will answer your question. Because Dion Allen starts the first verse. You get to hear him open the song. And also, he did sing on a few other songs, like the song we did with Kirk Franklin. There's a few songs floating around where you can, because I feel like Dion was the least heard member vocally. Although, what people don't know is that he was the glue in the harmony when we were recording those songs. Face recognized some sort of quality in his voice and said, I want to put double you. He doubled Mark's high notes to smooth out some of the piercing high end with some velvety, kind of like that good kind of ash, that haziness that just floods the track. So Dion is in more places in the background than any other member of the group at all times. He's always on his own note by himself. Then he'll double Mark's note, if or a falsetto note, and there's even one or two places he's in the bass because we wanted to be able to sing all of our songs live. So whenever somebody switches, like on Hard to Say I'm Sorry, there's a part where I'm singing bass when Kenny goes to do his high note because he can't be in two places at once, and we didn't like to cheat. We didn't even want to punch in. Nowadays, it's like, look, you got virtual artists, ghost writers, and everything else, but we just wanted it to sound like the record when we went out live. And Dion didn't get the shine he deserved vocally. I'm not saying that he was a better singer than Mark Nelson. I'm not saying I'm a better singer than anybody, but it's not about better. It's about balance.
Yeah.
And I thought that the album would have been better with more balance, but apparently it didn't need to be better for it to be a no skips album. So,
you had Kenny.
It is what it was.
You had Kenny doing his oh do 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 do.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite part of the song. Oh, what a time it was.
We've got John from Troop.
Oh man, hey, that's good, brother. I see you. I see John Harold from the legendary Troop.
Yeah,
legendary.
John.
It's an honor and a pleasure.
Hey, John, it's always good to see you. Yeah, I think that, I mean, it's amazing because Last Night's the first single on the album, then Save for Someone Else is the second single, and then you're like, wait a minute, this should have just been like, oh man, look how they're just coming off the back. And so I'm thinking, A&R, what's going on, guys? Just put this. That could have just been as the follow-up single, and it would have been a big R&B album because the radio station.
I feel you on that, and we got that group of songs, like a chunk of the songs that Face wrote. We thought every one of them could have been a single. And shout out to Rick Dutch Kuzan. Now, he brought the song Inseparable Lovers. I know I skipped ahead, but that was one of the songs that people mentioned a lot as possibly being a second or third single too. And Sheila E's playing on that, playing congas on it. But, that's a good problem to have when there's so many good songs that any one of them, except my single, could have been the single. That's a good problem to have. It's all my fault. You know what? That's what I get. Yeah. It was me. I did it.
Yeah, and I did realize that actually, because when you listen to the album over and over again, you can recognize Mark's voice, and you think that if they had, because Boyz II Men were really good at, okay, Nate, you're gonna start it off, Shawn,
and that's how we used to do it until we got signed. That was the Philly formula right there, the doo-wop street formula. That was what we wanted. The same way that we looked up to New Edition and En Vogue, because En Vogue was changing their styles and fitting to fit the songs. Like they could
Mm,
do a rock song. That's why we were called As Yet Untitled, because we didn't want our sound to
to
be
be,
limited to one title.
yeah.
But that being said, this is uh, this is what success looks like to others. It feels like a failure to us. Isn't that
Mm,
something?
yeah.
Yeah.
Was it your intentions to have it all ballads and mid tempos, or did you?
No, 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 no. And don't get me wrong. If you're asking me, this is not to take away anything. I see the comment on the bottom. This is what I mentioned earlier when I said, how can we be a group from Philly? We danced, we did choreography,
Oh, you
we
serious?
we actually sang and rapped before it was a thing. They told us to pick a lane. I mean, we were a whole different kind of group than what the public got to hear.
Ah.
And it's one thing, for instance, when an actor plays a role, they get into character for that role. And then
Mm.
hopefully they don't get pigeonholed, or else Jamie Foxx would still be doing Wanda and we wouldn't have gotten Ray. But when it comes to artists, it's like, no, put the white suit back on. Only do like I said, people want to limit you to the confines of their imagination, and they're using all this strategic thinking, um, but they're not musicians. They're not in tune.
Mm,
Um, when you have to hire a team to go out in the street, you're not on the street. You know what I'm saying? Like it was, and
mm,
this is again not to take away from all the great work that they did to make it happen, but that methodology and that way of thinking, I'm so glad has been left back in the 90s. Um, but moving on, say moving on. If it were up to me, I would have exchanged every little bit of my heart for any other up tempo that was a little bit more true to our quote unquote urban roots, as they put it back then.
mm,
Hard to Say I'm Sorry would have been a cover song that you would have heard at the end of the record and probably wouldn't have been a single. Or we would have done something different a cappella. But like if I had turned it in and the group didn't like it and Babyface didn't like it, I wouldn't have been heartbroken. You know how many arrangements I got? Shoot. And it wasn't even my song. Like I didn't write the song. It's
yeah.
if anybody, David Foster's missing out. You'll be able to sleep at night.
Shout out to my good friend, the R&B talk show,
Oh
Rashid.
yeah, what's good, Rashad? What's
Rashad,
up?
yeah.
Yeah, I was just on his show the other day, and he's an
Okay.
awesome cat. I love that everyone supports each other around here. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, yeah. He no, he's definitely one of the pioneers. Um,
Where
Care for Me.
ooh. Now, every time I hear that song, I think about being on stage, because that's that point in the show. We have a few different points in the show, but that's when as soon as that intro comes on, you know what time it is. You know what I mean? Like, yes, grown
Mm.
folks' business right there. Even back then, we knew like that it's time to unbutton the button, you know, up the collar a little bit. Yeah, that fire, fire, and the performances on it. I like the balance between Mark and Kenny in that song, going back and forth, and it's a lot more difficult for those of us with lower voices to get up into the tenor range, and the contrast of ease and power, of finesse versus aggression, like that contrast together. I could listen to that all day. It's a great song.
It sounded like a Babyface song.
Yeah.
Like that
I
was
know what
like,
you
yeah,
mean.
almost
I
like
mean,
he
obviously,
sang it and he said, "Okay, you guys sing it instead."
yeah, I wouldn't mad at it. I'll take. Look, Face, if you got any leftovers that you're not using, I'll gladly bless them. Not because he's Face, but because he's talented and his music is timeless.
Definitely, definitely. Lorena, go ahead.
All right. We're going to number 4,
Okay.
which is Every Little Bit of My Heart, which you were speaking on just a tiny bit.
Yes. I'm sorry, but I mean, like I said, we had no idea that we were to be recording that song until the day we show up in the studio. Now, keep in mind, it's a huge studio. You got the engineer over there. Mark is in the corner chilling. He already knows what's about to happen. And we walk in, And as soon as we hear it, okay, when did Mark have time to record this? Is this for us? And I'm just being honest, like I try to be. I thought it was corny, cheesy, too poppy, even more poppy than Hard to Say I'm Sorry poppy, like bubblegum poppy. And not that it's a poorly written song or that Mark can't sing, but I was so offended by the way it was forced on us, number one. And number two is it felt like selling out. If you only have one slot for an up tempo, this is not something I'm going to be bumping in the club. Like if I walk down the street singing that in Philadelphia, I get my ass beat. Anyway, make a long story short though, on the positive side, I'm gonna tell you a story. We're doing Donnie and Marie. You remember when Donnie Osmond and Marie Osmond, they used to have a TV show. We're on the commercial break after we finished singing Hard to Say I'm Sorry. And Donnie Osmond, he says, hey, if you guys ever need, an extra member, I'm all for it. And we're like, oh, that's sweet, right? The next commercial break comes, he goes, I'm not joking. I'm serious. Every Little Bit of My Heart is my favorite fucking song.
What?
Wow.
Donnie Osmond's favorite song was Every Little Bit of My Heart. That says everything you need to know, which means that it was a great song, but maybe not a song that was for our target market.
Mm.
And thank you, Mark, for that joy you just brought me, even now, bringing that song up.
But you did have Bryce Wilson from Groove Theory.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because Bryce Wilson was brought in after we recorded the original version of Secrets, which is, I don't know what number it is on the
7.
record.
Oh, that's 7.
Yeah.
It's been 30 years. So I'm not dissing Bryce Wilson. I'm glad that he got his check and everything else. But again, we didn't know anything about this. Like you said, you don't like to read the credits first. It wouldn't have made a difference if Dr. Dre did it. You know what I'm saying? I still wasn't going to like it. I like Bryce more than I like that song. I'll tell you that much. But what I'm saying is that Bryce was brought in to quote unquote add, some meat and a little thump to it.
Okay.
I can only imagine how much thinner it sounded before then. I don't know.
Okay.
And like I said, no diss to Bryce. But we'll get to Secrets later.
Okay, Loretta, go ahead.
But yeah, no, I thought it was a good song, but I was looking forward to have like another up tempo song on the album. But yeah, it wasn't bad. But I get what you're saying when you listen to the whole album, and then that track, it is a little bit different. It is a little bit more like a crossover type of track.
It's okay to love it. It's okay to love it. It's okay if it's your favorite song. I'm tapping into my 30 years ago memories of it. I guess therapy works wonders. I can listen to it without cringing, but it's just and there I do have a part in there. I mean, if you listen to it at the end, you can hear me. Oh, na 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 na. I'm in there. It's not, so it's just as much my fault that it's corny.
Oh goodness.
All right. So then number 5, we're going to Hard to Say I'm Sorry.
Hated it. Next.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think I've said enough about that song earlier because we talked about the second single. But one part of the story that maybe I didn't mention was that we recorded the song in 2 days. The system that we recorded the entire record with Face was that 1 day for all backgrounds and 1 day for all leads. Never did it take us more than 1 day, even with an acapella with 5-part harmony where you couldn't cut and paste nothing because you got modulations and everything else. 4 tracks each, 5-part harmony, plus the overdubs in 1 day. People spend, I'll just say, people spend less time getting ready for a photo shoot than we spent putting our music together because we were professionals and Face didn't play. He made us rise to the occasion, meaning that like, if you don't have it together, oh well. But chop that thing together. Like I really loved that recording that song specifically because it was my first professional production and it did get nominated for a Grammy. So it's always going to have a special place in my heart, even if it had no place on the album.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, for me, I think it when I listen to the whole album, I'm thinking this particular song was very much adult contemporary type of song, and
You
it
know what?
just
It would have
didn't
been a
fit.
perfect companion to Every Little Bit of My Heart. We should have put those two on the same record. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. There was a remix featuring Peter Cetera, but
Mhm.
yeah.
And look, and,
Was he
and
ever?
the youngins
Was
were
he
like,
ever in
"Who's
the
that old
video?
white dude in the video?" I'm like, "It's his song."
Oh, okay. Yeah, he was okay.
They put him in the
Okay.
box. And then, by the way, a little spin-off of that side quest was that Peter Cetera thanked us for doing the song over because it was the most successful Chicago remake. So he actually called As Yet back at this time was, we left LaFace. Um, he called us to do You're the Inspiration. So if you search YouTube and you look for As Yet You're the Inspiration, it's Tony Grant in Mark's Place, and we're all on the beach in Malibu, sausage fest. Uh, but it's a cute video. It's cool, but it's all dudes with our shirts off. So like I said, it's not for everybody, but it's so sweet. They used to play it on the box. If you go to Walmarts across America, you'll hear um, As Yet, Peter Cetera featuring As Yet You're the Inspiration. And that was so nice to actually work with Peter directly, and it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Hard to Say I'm Sorry. Uh, I hope that you were of age when you watched Teen Summit, by the way, because we had no idea what we were getting into. Um, singing to these youngins like that. I'm responding to the comment on the bottom for those who might not be paying attention. But yes, when we were on Teen Summit and all that and all these kind of shows, we're not checking ID. We assume that they're going to edit it for content, and we kept our clothes on, but it's still kind of weird when, the girls are singing the dirty words back to you after we done edited it to I was in love with you instead of I was inside of you, but they're saying, "Oh, you were inside of us." We're like, okay. But I know the kids have heard worse, but still, I'm a father and I have kids, so looking back on it now,
But
I'd
for
do it
that,
again. No, I'm kidding.
but
I
for
wouldn't
Hard
do it
to
again.
Say,
Thank you.
I'm sorry, you guys had a video. How was that recording that video?
For Hard to Say I'm Sorry,
Yeah.
that one, or was there a third? Or which one? Just making sure I'm talking about the right song.
Hard to say. Yeah, that's
Hard to Say I'm
So
Sorry.
same the second time around, we had a little bit more leverage. So we sat down at dinner with Billy Woodruff, and I made a suggestion about having a microphone that was a rotating spokes. Like it would be. I was like, it would be really cool if we had a mic, like that came up like this and went out like that, and then when we grabbed it, it would all move. And I know that other artists have done similar things, like Temptations or whoever, but that was the thought that I had at the time. And I forgot about it. When we showed up for the shoot and I saw that thing there, I was like, oh my God, listen. And the overhead shot with that thing spinning. And in other news, people may not know that in that video, Keena from Brownstone is Kenny's love interest. If you're a Brownstone fan, you will see Keena from Brownstone in there. And there's a few beautiful video vixens. That Hummer, we all took turns driving that Hummer without a license, which is why they did not use my footage. Yes. But I really enjoyed that video because I can see that it might have caused a little tension when I was the only one of the group to actually produce a single, and to other people weren't as supportive of seeing my ideas come to life, when really I was just happy to be there like everybody else. I'm not competing with my brothers. We're on the same team. And it is what it is. But I love that video. I just met that girl that day. I was not intending to do a kissing scene, but because of the previous video, if you watched the last night video, shout out to Jillian White. She's now married to Michael Jai White, but she was also my video love interest. Um, I'm like, nothing ever happened between us. Please don't kill me, Mr. White. No, no, we were cool. We were cool. So, I get this kissing scene now. I brought my then girlfriend to the video shoot because I wanted her to know, hey, like this is just what I do for a living. There's nothing, this is work for
That's
me.
what I do for
But
a living.
I warned her, I said, actors do this all the time. I didn't write the script, but things may happen because it's a love song. And I kind of knew what it was going to be. So needless to say, when my kissing scene came up, my then ex-girlfriend, she became my ex-girlfriend right then and there, stormed off the set. And
Oh,
we
no.
never brought significant others to the video.
Lorraine, next one.
Number 6 is That's All I Want.
Ooh, man. One of my favorites. The arrangement in that hook, the way you can hear Mark shoot out on one way and Kenny go down to the bottom, and everything about that song. And Mark came up with this little harmony note. Like, Mark was a Kappa graduate. And, I'm a University of the Arts alumni. So that being said, if you're a music head, you know how hard it is to come up with an idea that wasn't thought of when you've got Babyface and you've got, in this case, Mervyn Warren, and of course, Keith Andes, and all these great musicians are coming together, and we're putting together the harmony. And Mark goes, oh, oh, oh. And I was like, no, wait, no, wait. Ah, man, you found one I couldn't find. Put it in, put it in, put it in. Like every now and then, he reminds you he's Mark Nelson. You know what I mean? And I remember that more than his verse, although he killed the verse. Like he's also has a great ear for harmony that kind of blew me away because a lot of the songs he writes for other people are very 3-part harmony. So he found a 5th and a 6th note. Like he found stuff that wasn't there. And I said, you know what? All right. Give credit where credit is due.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's yes, it's another. So Keith would write, but he didn't help with the production. You found this?
You know what? I would not say that. Although I was not present for Keith's contributions, what I know about Keith is that he can create a complete song by himself. I don't know exactly who put what words where, what was changed sonically. But from what I know, Keith Andes created the concepts for the songs, including lyrics, melody, and or chord changes, depending on the scenario. And by all means, Keith, please correct me if I'm wrong, that he writes songs and then delivers songs. And then Face will take that material, or had, because I'm sure his process varies from person to person, but he would take the concept and the song and elevate it either sonically or make lyrical adjustments, additions, and or changes, and bring in the world's best session players from, on a global level. That in no way is to take away from anyone's talent. And, but from what I've seen, like I've worked with Keith outside of, working with Face, and there's nothing that he can't do. So, the man played, he doesn't necessarily, I'll put it like this. It was a perfect pairing because they both spoke the same musical language.
Question, was L.A. Reid involved in the making of the album?
Not in any hands-on way that I can discern. But I will say that from what I know, he was instrumental in getting Last Night onto the Nutty Professor soundtrack. I'm not sure, like I said, I wasn't there when contracts were signed, but it was Def Jam's budget that paid for the Last Night video because they included the film footage in one version, and the non-film, we shot one video that became 2 videos. And there was also another version of Hard to Say I'm Sorry that we shot in New York in the snow, where we had to do everything super fast so they can slow it down and make it seem like the snow was falling. So we're like, oh, me now, it's hard for me to say. And then it would be like, "Whoa," like when you, anyway, it was modern technology in the 90s, I tell you. So I dare say that he was instrumental in ways other than creative, but unlike his earlier involvement when they were a writing team and also in a band together, Face and Kenny, this was way more into LA's business phase. So I don't recall seeing him in the studio at any point or flying out to LA to, to play bass or drums or something. It wasn't like that. I'm sure it would have been dope if he did. I would love to have that on my resume, you know?
We had Secrets. John B. Did he get so? And had John B come out by this time?
Yes, because I recall one of the ways that we got our feet wet on stages was after John B's record dropped. Me, Kenny, Terry, and Dion were his backup singers. We went on the road singing his songs. The Hey Pretty Girl, can I be your man tonight? Like that's how I got to know John. And we would do the little steps and the whole thing. And we had a nice little blend together. And that led to us writing a lot of songs together that some of which have come out, like Pleasures You Like. I wrote the title track along with a brilliant team. John always knows how to pick them. You know what I mean? That being said, he was already known of. He had put out Someone to Love, that whole first album. He was working on Bonafide. And he also had this other project called Jack Herrera. Anyway, so Secrets, the original version, John B did everything from scratch and we all loved it. Obviously, we loved it. Babyface loved it. That we heard his version. After we recorded our vocals, then they brought in Bryce Wilson. Now, again, no offense to Bryce, but I think in this case, we had what they call in the industry demo-itis. Demo-itis is when you fall in love with the first version because you're emotionally attached to the first version. Sometimes the magic is lost when something is changed. And I wish that I had both to let you guys be the judge. If I had that original demo, you could tell me. But it took me a while to get over the new version because John's version was authentically created and connected to him, and it had a specific sound. However, what Bryce brought to the table, he did put some knock on the bottom end of it. He didn't mess up or change the vocals in any way. He didn't ruin the song or anything like that. Shout out to Bryce. Like, I'm sure he did the best under the conditions he's under, what he had to deal with to even be a part of this record at all, let alone put his magic stamp on it. So, I work with him anytime. And I'm sorry about what I said about A Little Bit of My Heart, but he didn't write the lyrics and melody. He didn't make it corny. He was already corny before he put his mouth. So, I know that's messed up, right? I'll drag you and then I'll pick you back up again.
What did you make of the song, Lorena? Secrets.
Oh, that was one of my favorites on the album. I actually really liked I really did like that song. So it's interesting to know that there was like two versions that were created about for that song, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, both versions had the exact same lyrics and melody, by the way. Like it's not like, where he didn't change anything about the way the song went. He just put that that boom bap on the bottom. But the kind of song that it already was, it still was never going to make it into the club because it's like a mid tempo. So I'm like, why? Like you're bringing groove theory to put a groove on something that theoretically would not be played in the club. A waste, let's say a perfectly good waste of a brilliant talent, but it wasn't a waste to have worked with him in any capacity. So,
no, of course.
Again, hindsight is 2020. We can sit back and talk about what should have been, and that's the fun part. Let's keep going.
This was also a contender for me for as a single. Probably it would have been a third single. Through My Heart, The Arrow. And I was actually thinking about how the video. I mean, Lorena, when you think of that song, could you have a concept for a music video?
I could. I don't have one right now, but
I have a treatment.
Okay, go ahead.
Imagine us uh, dressed like, let's say, Robin Hood, men in
Yeah,
tights.
yeah, that
You
was
know,
it.
like
Yeah, yeah.
with the little curly pointy elf shoes and the
Yeah,
hat with the feather in it.
I had the whole
Right, but
Robin
yes,
Hood stuff.
we can
Yeah,
skip the
Maid
tights.
Marian.
We can skip the tights, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Yes, the
yeah,
Victorian era sort of, yes.
yeah, yeah. I had the whole thing in my head, like um, somebody plays. You know, I'm sure because who sang the majority of the song was it Mark?
Mark starts it off, and then Kenny takes the second verse, and then they go back and forth. The
Okay.
bridge is all of us together. An
Mm,
interesting side note is that if you on my YouTube page, I just posted this video that I discovered. There's a man named Bill Myers who arranged the strings for that. We weren't present
mm,
for that because Brian had scheduled that session before we even heard the song, and the string arrangement that you hear on the record was actually the sound check. They were, the first recording when they were just testing the levels. That's the one they kept. They did
wow.
several other takes. It just the magic came together. And
Mm,
Brian was again on our wish list because we grew up listening to him and he was part of our inspiration. We actually sang One Last Cry a cappella at that Bahamas showcase I was telling you about.
mm,
We sang
mm.
it to get the record deal when we first sang for Babyface. So he was a part of
Yeah.
our journey. We had to complete the journey. And I apologize to everyone um, for having to mention Brian McKnight in this current climate. If it's
Oh,
he's going through a lot right now. I don't want to pile on to him. I don't kick him off
yeah.
already. He's
No.
doing a bang up job already.
Yeah. I mean, no, no.
Yes, we love
We
Brian.
are going to
Yes, we love Brian. We all
review
go through stuff. So
his debut album is probably one of my favorite debut albums, and I'm definitely planning to do a review of that album because um, it is another banging album. Have you heard it, Lorena?
I have heard it.
yeah.
That's an album that was played in my house a lot. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, I love that album. So we are going to come back
I've
to
been
that
down with
album.
Brian since when he did I Can't Go For That.
I
And
can go for
yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah.
people were like, "What? Look, that was his Hard to Say I'm Sorry on his record, where it's like, what is that? Or no, or his Every Bit of My Heart, where it's like that one Hall and Oates song in the middle of all this R&B.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Maybe that's where I
No.
got the idea from. You know what? It's all Brian's fault. But
Okay.
seriously, he was great to work with. Brilliant, and he told us, by the way, Brian told us. Now, keep in mind that he had already worked with Boys to Men. They did a Christmas album together and all this
Yeah,
other
Let It
stuff.
Snow. Yeah.
He said we were the only artists he worked with where he didn't have to sing any backgrounds to layer it. And when you go back and listen, no offense, boy, they look, Boys to Men, you know that I'm telling the truth because we can hear it. And this is not to take away from them. It's the way Brian works.
Mm,
Brian has a very specific sound he's going for. So on the Boys to Men Christmas albums, Brian McKnight is all up in them backgrounds, doubling harmonies
mm,
because he arranges it first and then you sing along with each part. It's not because they can't sing or something. So let me get
mm,
that out of the way. But we were so honored that he said, I don't want to touch you guys blend. I'm just going to leave it just like that. He told us
mm.
where to be, and every note he came up with, it belonged there. We didn't question it, but we had a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
shout out to Brian. Stay
Yeah,
strong.
no, no, as I said, yeah, I pretty much used to get every album he came out with as they came out, just because I appreciated his voice and appreciated his writing and his style.
Oh yeah.
Um, yes, okay. Yeah, the video treatment definitely would have been one of you guys, maybe Mark playing Robin Hood, somebody playing Little John, Friar Tuck.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. See, and then we could have been like Shrek,
Oh yes, Shrek, yeah.
something like that. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Loretta, what's next?
Next is track number 9. I don't want to be lonely.
Oh man. You know what? That's the part in the show where we pretended that we were leaving. Like we're like that was gonna be the last okay, this is the last song of the night, but it's really not because it obviously sounds like my bags are packed and I'm about to go and like we're breaking their heart and everything. And then we come back on stage and keep singing. But that song, incredible. Um, I cannot overstate how well executed the lyric writing, the melodies, the sonic. There's a classic thing. Um, and one of the things that I noticed about Babyface's production, what wound up in the final edits and the final cuts, if you just listen to the instrumental, you might notice that it sounds empty without the melody, but the melody is the thread. Like he knows how to leave space to feel things, but it still feels full with everything. Nowadays, people make tracks with 35 layers and, you know, not you can't remember anything about it. It's just, not the Phil Spector wall of sound. It's just a bunch of sounds sometimes. And everything is just like, written very linear, starts with a sample, then you got 4-bar loop, and then you add more drums, and then you take them back out. This was not that. You know what I'm saying? There's I Don't Want to Be Lonely is, to me, one of my favorite Mark parts. When he's whining at the end, he really does sound lonely. We should have left him alone. Now, say, I miss Mark, man. He should call me sometime.
But it did sound like a Boys to Men track. It's almost like, I don't know if it was an intentional way of recording it or
You
having you
know,
guys
I
sing.
used to kind of piss face off accidentally because like I've been neurodivergent before it was a term. So I'll see connections between every last song he wrote, and I'll go, hey, that chord reminds me of the one you did in this song, and then that one reminds me and the thing, and he'll go, like he's always searching for something that he hasn't done yet. But the irony is that the minute that he deviates and tries something new, they think he's run out of ideas. And I'm like, you can't win with, they called him music old child when he tried to do a neo soul record. But I'm like, this sounds great. It sounds beautiful. Let the man live. Like I can't, his brilliance is elegant in its execution. The kind of song that anyone could sing. Like I think if you got the range and you sing I don't want to be lonely, I don't want to see a day without you. I mean, it's timeless, man. It's just timeless. He's not a Svengali like some of these people that pretend to produce but never picked up an instrument or never. I mean, not to say every producer has to play an instrument, but I've seen some people that are worshipped who literally pay other people underneath them, sign them to a production deal, and they're the face of the thing and don't do the thing. Face is the real deal. And
Well,
I Don't Want to Be Lonely is a classic. Classic,
did you
classic.
enjoy it, Loretta?
Yeah,
Thank you,
no.
Anthony.
If we were doing like our top
Come-
songs, like that song landed in my top 3.
Wow.
It's one of my really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. As long as you
Ah.
didn't say every little bit of my heart, we cool. Now I'm kidding. Okay.
Imagine that was my number 1. No,
I knew it. I knew it. No, we cool. We cool. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for watching.
Sadder Than Blue.
All right. Now that one, the first thing I say, speaking of references and callbacks, the very opening of that melody is A Night in Tunisia. As soon as I heard that, I said, "Oh," because keep in mind, I had taken a leave of absence from University of the Arts, where I was a jazz vocal major, and when I heard that horn, the muted trumpet, and it was right up my alley. It's a melancholy song. I know it's not a club banger or a ballad, but I still like it better than every bit of my heart. Now, but it's just got a feel to it. And the only problem I have with that song is that they should have let Kenny sing that whole song and then let Mark sing Time to Close the Book by himself. If you're gonna because like it's a weird thing when Kenny is killing it. Kenny Terry is killing that song. 2 verses in a row, and then when Mark comes in, it's not that he sounds bad, but I'm like, dang, we're already like 3 minutes into the song. You might as well just let him finish it. And in a perfect world, I thought every individual member could have held their own song if the song was tailored to them. And I understand why Mark is there. He gives Kenny a break. He comes in and he doesn't sound bad, and it lifts the song up. It's nice. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. I mean, it's yes. I mean, Lorena, did you like this Sadder Than Blue?
I liked it because I'm always an advocate to bring instruments into songs. Like I want
Mm.
those solos to happen. So I don't hear it in today's music that much unless it's like produced by D Mile. He uses a lot of instruments in his songs. So
Yeah.
hearing this for me, I was like, yes.
In my head, I said, so in the UK, there's always this push to get a number one, a Christmas number one.
Uh,
And just like the Wham! Careless Whispers last night, they didn't have a Christmas album, but you always mention, you release a song in and around Christmas, and it just gives you longevity. So every year you're
Absolutely.
making money from it. And I
Hmm.
listened to this and I just thought, wow, what if they had said, what if this was um, a Christmas song?
I can
Oh,
hear it.
oh,
That's brilliant
yeah,
because in the context of wanting to be home for the holidays and being
yeah,
without
yeah,
you makes me
yeah,
sad and
yeah,
blue.
yeah,
You
yeah.
ever think about working in the industry? No, that's
I
brilliant though. Seriously,
I
I
thought
love that context.
if he had shot it in a snowy cabin, and one of you guys is, the girl is not, doesn't have the girl, and the rest of you have your girls, they're opening presents, and then it would just be the kind of stuff, like it would just be that nostalgic Christmas song, like every Christmas they'll just play the video, and but then
Yeah.
of
Then
course it
we
would
could
be
repurpose
Babyface
the
making the money.
wardrobe. Look, seriously, like we could repurpose the wardrobe from the Arrow Through My Heart and get to wear the tights and the pointy shoes again.
Yeah, yeah,
But this
yeah,
time we're
yeah.
elves. We're Santa's elves.
With
You
the
know what I'm
elves.
saying? It'll keep the theme going. But this time we got striped tights.
And it's not a
No, but
big
that's
thing in
brilliant. That is
America, though.
brilliant.
It's I guess it's not big in America or Canada, where you having because you purposely write a Christmas song, whereas in the UK to get a Christmas number one, it's just a theme around Christmas, but it's
It has to be a
sometimes
little
it's not.
less on the nose. Although I'll say Leona's Christmas song and Mariah's Christmas song being amongst the most popular ones, it can be done. But I do like the way that you applied a new context to an existing song. That makes it
Mm,
seem more genuine to me
mm.
and a little less, on the nose. So
Yeah,
bravo.
it was just the
If
whole
I had the budget,
vibe.
I'd have you direct my next video.
It was the whole vibe. I love. Yeah, I really appreciated this song. It really, it's like, wow, this is. It gave me Love Jones vibes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you've watched the
Yeah.
Love
Oh,
Jones.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what it was like you said, it's not a club song. It's not like I don't know. It just I felt like I should be sitting down somewhere with like a glass of red wine.
Hey, as you taste my. I'm sorry. Never mind. Next time.
Okay. I interviewed John. Um,
Oh, yeah. It's John
Inseparable
Robinson or
Lovers.
John Harold.
Robinson.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes. Inseparable Lovers. So, and I guess maybe, and as you know, as I said, Mark is an amazing vocalist. I think that was probably where you can hear his voice throughout the album, and you could think, oh, maybe, because I'm thinking how Boys to Men share the load,
Yeah.
and then you can appreciate. Um, and so I do wonder that. And I couldn't tell who he was. He the only one that sang throughout
No,
Inseparable
him
Lovers?
and Kenny both going back and forth. But the
Okay.
thing is, there's an overlap. There are times when people couldn't tell me from Kenny, Kenny from Mark, or whoever. Like, I'd get asked these things all the time: who's singing which part? And the thing is, um, the song is low for Mark and mid-range for Kenny in the earlier parts. So whenever you hear them going back and like an overlap, some people are thinking that he's punching in over himself when really, it's them going back and forth. It's just the nature of the pronunciation and the voices, and it happens sometimes. I do think that although the record should have, would have, could have, should have showcased people more evenly, I love the way the album sounds overall. And in Inseparable Lovers, like I mentioned before, the brilliant Rick Dutch Kuzan, who you may also know from, I don't know, Up in the Club by Ice Cube on down. He's done so many brilliant things, but he credits us with being his first uh, introduction versus professional production. So this was both of our first professionals at the same time, and we're still friends to this day. But I can't speak enough about you know the kind of how rare it is to find authentic people still in this game making music. So shout out, to Rick Kuzan. And like I mentioned before, Sheila E is playing the conga rhythms in there. There's a lot of legends involved with the record. But again, when you've got so many that are so good, it's a tough act to follow. It really is. So, ooh, thank you, John. John, I appreciate you, man. Always. And it takes one to know one because look, when someone from one of the most talented groups in the world, I'll just put it like this: game recognized game. I see you. I see you. Word. Thank you. I'm like, yes, we're gonna take all the groups that are broken up and put those members together and call them the X-Men because we're all X-members. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
LSG 3.0.
Did you
Nah,
enjoy it,
I'm done
Lorena?
with groups. We can collaborate together, but I only got one life to live, I say.
What did you make of it, Lorena? Inseparable Lovers.
It was a good song. I like the song. Like I like all the songs on the album. I thought it was just a really good album, but it's super cool to know that Sheila E was a part of that track as well. So
Mhm.
that's a super cool tidbit to know because I didn't really look at all the credits
Yeah.
of all the songs. So
Unless you buy the physical copy, when you go, let's say you go to your Spotify or your Apple Music,
Discogs and
you're
stuff.
not going to see everything. And even when you search the internet through like the All Music or Discogs or these different places, there are so many people left out. And I already know that I owe people an apology who I should have mentioned. I mean, it was 30 years ago, and I'm surprised I remember this much. But seriously, like there are so many people uh, that contributed actual music to this thing who's got a laundry list of credits, who could have done the whole album themselves, and have played on thousands of better records than as yet who were
Definitely.
humble enough to play on our little record.
I know
Right?
that makes it hard right now because even like not having the physical album and then trying to get like the information, the background, like who was involved, because
Yeah.
half the time they don't really update sometimes the credits. So
And also when you input, like this is like, I'll say underneath the hood take on this. If you've ever distributed your own music in the digital world, you have to format it to where it will be accepted by the distributor. And they don't leave slots for every single instrumentalist. And then sometimes the instrumentalist is also an artist, but they can't be listed as a featured artist because it's not in their contract, or the rights no longer belong to this person or that person. And it's a reissue. So even fewer credits on the next reissue. And it's like, man,
Mm.
it's a good thing some of us are still alive and don't have dementia, or else nobody would know what happened.
Good. So we come to the last song on the album. Time to end the story.
Now, as I mentioned before, that song was sprung on us as a surprise. And no one was given any prior notice. That being said, um, I think it's a well written song. It's one of Mark's better songs. Mark is a great songwriter. I would have chosen any other song um, if we had had the opportunity to choose. I think he did deserve to write on the record. So let me get that clear. It's
Mm.
the perfect song to end a record with. It's the bookend to the story. And it took me a minute to let go of my feelings about how things came about, to appreciate the way things turned out. And
Mm.
such is life in general. And, you know,
Mm.
that is the way. The one thing I will say, like I said about the other song in reverse, is that it did seem strange to me that Mark sings two verses in a row and you don't hear Kenny till the fade out. However, however, I'm glad Kenny had the last word. Like, they used to do this back in old records, but now they don't. Where as the record is fading, you still hear that person going at it and they're hitting the notes. Like a lot of gospel records would do that. But if you
Mm.
listen to Time to Close the Book, Time to End the Book, at the very end, As it's fading, Kenny is still going higher than Mark Nelson, and he's singing his "Can you close the book?" It's like he's blowing his throat out. No Diddy. And I crank the record up to hear that last part because I was in the room when it was full blast, and I was mad at first that they faded it before he got to hit the highest note on the album. The bass in our group hit the highest recorded note on the As Yet record during the fade out. That's a piece of trivia to take with you. And I'm thankful that Mark Nelson forced that song on us because if it wasn't for him, that book would have never closed.
It sounded like a Michael Jackson song from history, kind of.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a compliment. Yep. Funny thing is, me and Mark actually co-wrote a song for Michael Jackson that never got placed, as far as I know, called "No Apologies." And the thing that I think you and I have in common is how we love to study music. We're historians of the music. We get into the weeds and the details, and to notice those different comparisons of how all of us of a certain era were inspired by our contemporaries. All of the producers, their job is to study, and draw influences from their contemporaries. So I am thankful to be from that era, and to be, counted even at the end of a list of contemporaries that starts, with people like Babyface or Michael Jackson or Boyz II Men, and you go back to the Temptations. The further back you go, there is a lineage that we all descend from that I really feel is missing. 30 years later, we're still talking about putting the love back in music. That's what we were saying back then. And people used to think our lyrics were racy. I'm like, hey. Yes. Thank
out
you
of
for
a 10, what would you give? What would you give the album out of a 10?
Oh my gosh, I would give it like a 9 or 9.5. I really, really like this album. And I think too, like going back to saying like Time 10, the story, I thought it was like a good song to close the album. But I would have liked a song where I got to hear each member. I think that would have been really cool at the end of an album. Or if it was like an a cappella song or something, because I feel like you guys' harmonies were so tight and so good. But I feel like we should have heard everybody at the end.
I love that. I would have loved to have another acapella because, again, the original "Hard to Say I'm Sorry" was acapella, but the version on the album was a beatapella, and then the one with the piano. Look, just that piano by that guy named David Foster. All that's great, but we wrote our own songs acapella for 6 straight years, and not one of them made the first album. But Mark Nelson can come in at the last minute and force 2 songs on us. Go figure. I would have at least let one of them be acapella. I give the album an 8.8 out of 10, and like you, there were 2 things that I would have liked to hear, which was at least one solid up-tempo club banger that was representative of the actual kinds of folks we were and still are, I hope. And I would have liked to hear a better balance amongst the members. But that being said, when I call it an 8.8 out of 10, you don't want to know what I rate the top 100 songs in R&B of today. None of them get past 4 for me, most. So, I'm admittedly biased. And the hardest I can be on this album is 8.8, and that's therapy. So
no, that's really good. I mean, I probably would give it to 9 because all the songs were so close. I couldn't really, as I said, apart from the 3 standout songs, Last Night, Saved for Someone Else, and Through My Heart, The Arrow, that I thought these were 3 straight singles that just would have just taken this into quadruple platinum. I think because I'm listening to it continuously every time I have an episode to repeat, I think I got weary of just having one main voice dominate, and I think that just got me like, man, and the fact that we didn't get to see you guys sing live to know it's like Blackstreet. You would hear, I would know when, say, Chauncey sings. I know when Mark Middleton or Levi or Eric or even Teddy,
Mhm.
because they've got distinct voices. So when they do sing, you get a nice balance. And I think with this, because we were introduced to you seeing that very first video, um, so it's yourself and Kenny and Mark doing the bulk of the verses.
Mhm.
But we're not. I'm listening to the album, like I don't know who's singing. Is it who else is that performing? Because that was the tough part about that.
Yes. Well, in spite of those shortcomings, uh, it still somehow stood the test of time. I agree with all the points you made. And it's funny because I've never heard anyone other than you deduct points for them not promoting the album properly.
Yeah, I
Like,
was
what do you
angry.
think the
I'm
points?
listening
Oh,
to this. I'm thinking, what
it
the
had more
hell?
number ones on it. I'm taking points off.
Yeah.
But that's
Okay.
I love all of this, that the fact that we can smile about this years later and it's still being talked about. And I wouldn't be surprised if you or one of your friends, Lorena, was conceived. Well, yes, I'll just leave it. You're welcome. Yes.
Quick questions that have come through. Do you still
Oh,
sing?
yes. As a matter of fact, please, if you go to my YouTube page, you'll see a lot of stuff that I've done. But I have an announcement to make. I promised the exclusive, and here it is. I am releasing my first self titled album entitled Shawn Rivera. March the 4th, we are marching forth. And it's a new kind of record. It's an old school R&B record with no skips, but also includes the influences of neo soul, gospel, and R&B that I grew up with. And unlike other albums, I'm taking it back to the before some of y'all was born, when Quincy Jones would release an album under his name and the songs had different voices and styles within it, but it all was cohesive. So this thing is bigger than me, and I guarantee you it's going to open up a dialogue. Um, I was able to restore masters that were damaged and destroyed through the modern technology of AI, and this is not a fake garbage record. Some people will check out if they just think, oh, they hear AI and they think that somebody just typed something. No, this took me a lifetime to put this together. And AI brought me out of retirement because I was able to do things that would have taken me another lifetime to achieve without going through the gatekeepers, without having to raise people from the dead to retract their parts, without having to pay thousands of dollars and days and hours to make this happen. And it is the project I've been waiting to release my entire life, and I've got 5 of them lined up already. March 4th, we're marching forth. Keep your eyes open, and I'll send you a link so you can drag me the way I've been, talking about these records. Hopefully, I'll get a 3.1 for my lifetime of work. But yes, I'm
So
looking
is it
forward to sharing this.
So is this your YouTube page that's scrolling at the bottom?
Yeah, it is me. Thank you,
Okay.
thank you, thank you. Yes, they're now the things that are up there. Some of them are 20 and 30 years old. There's stuff when I had a
Ah.
big afro singing some rock music. There's stuff from my jazz era days. There's stuff from As Yet. There's stuff, some of the work I've done with Maya Angelou. I'm about 200 or 300 subscribers short of being able to monetize my page, and it's been up there forever. So if just 1% of your viewers just it doesn't cost you nothing. I'm not asking you to donate to my Patreon, but I'd really like to monetize my page.
Yeah.
Like, I need to feed the kids. Like, I can't even afford a haircut. Why do you think I'm wearing hats all the time? Please help a brother out.
So no, so March 4th we should get a new video with some of the new stuff.
I'm working on the video, but the release is already set. So, speaking of which, I'm doing things a little differently this time because I feel as though music has been held hostage by the cult of personality, being famous just for being famous, putting more effort into image than into intent, more style over substance.
Mm.
So it seems like with the backlash to all of these fake AI artists, I'm going to focus on just the real, natural, authentic delivery. I'm not going to shoot a bunch of fancy videos. If somebody wants to pay for it, that's great. All I'm saying is that when you hear this record, it will speak for itself,
Okay.
and I will let it do the talking. And I'm not sure if I'm going to shoot a full length video because I have so much going on in my life. That you remember when we didn't need to see the artists? You remember when you could just pop a record in and it was so good that you didn't know if they were black or white, fat or skinny, and then they show up with a
Bobby
horseshoe
Caldwell,
with the
yeah.
hair back here, and they're like, "Wait, Tia Marie's white, or wait, Marie's white, his hair up here." The music should come first, and I want to take it back to those days when it doesn't matter who's singing what. it sounds so good that you don't care. And if you do care, then you investigate. I'm sick of seeing more. I'm sick of knowing more about people's personal life, political and sexual preferences, and don't know anything about the music. And it leaves
Mm,
me feeling empty and overwhelmed. And
mm,
everybody, when everybody's creating all of these slick looking videos, and anyone can throw something out there, no one has taken as much time as I have to say absolutely nothing. So when I see someone else doing it, I get jealous. Somebody got my joke. Anyway, thanks for watching, and stay tuned. I'm going to send you and Rashad and Lorena um, some advanced copies of things, because I want the crowd to pick the singles, because I'm
mm,
not with a label. I don't want to shrink my ideas to the limit of other people's imagination. You tell me
mm,
what you like. And if you say, hey, I can't play any of this, then I know I'm onto something, because art should be controversial. So either way, it's a
mm.
win-win. And if nobody likes it, I'll just go right back to being broke, and we can all live happily ever after.
Well, I'm sure Lorena and I would be able to do an album review live with
It's
you.
only 9 songs. It's not that long.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah, we do the album review. We go through the song, you talk through it.
You're gonna have some questions, and I'm dead serious. Like this is something that I think will set the tone for where it could go when it comes to where the future of music is, what's missing from what's old, and incorporating the new technology in a way that is honorable. There are contributions, creative contributions from everyone from Natalie Cole's keyboard player to En Vogue's drummer, you name it. We all came together years ago in different bands and
Mm,
created music that sat on hard drives, or, like I said, either masters were destroyed, people died.
mm,
But this has been remixed and revisited using AI to make it more accessible and up to the sonic standard without having to buy every last plugin. And we're not imitating anybody. If it reminds you of anything or any other artist, it's my contemporaries. But every last melody, lyric, and bass lines and music was played by humans, and then enhanced and elevated
mm,
using modern technology. It's never been done in the way that it's being done. And
mm.
I'm pretty sure other people have thought of it, but I get to be one of the people on the forefront, and I'm excited about it. It sounds
What
so good that you would never, the last thing you're going to be thinking about is robots.
what is the theme of it,
All right.
of the
Um,
album?
I had several titles that I chose not to use, which ought to give you some insight. One of them was Grown Folks Business, but a lot of people have used that one. One of them was Favorite Lips, after one of the titles of the songs. Um, the one that I settled on was my actual name, because I realized, wait a minute, I've done an album called Full Circle. I did an album called Salsa, but I never did a self-titled album. And this is the closest to what I represent. It's There are slow songs, there are some up tempos. There's got to be at least one corny song to keep in the every bit of my heart. I poured every bit of my heart into this so that it wouldn't be time to close the book to the story. We're opening a new chapter. Let's go.
Okay.
Well, I'm excited. I can't wait to hear.
Awesome,
Yes.
awesome. So yes, it's already been submitted to the distributor. It's coming out. I'm just working on the visuals. I already did the quote unquote photo shoot. I wanted to get you the visuals sooner to use on this record, but again, they have to approve things. And when you're doing
Mm,
things differently than other people, they're going to have questions. But when
mm,
you hear the record, you won't.
okay.
And
I'm
is this
pretty.
something where we have to like purchase directly from you, like how?
I'm working on that whole direct to consumer model. This is my gift. When I say my gift, I'm only going to get 0.5, 0.005, but I wanted this to reach the broadest scope of people. And what I notice is the way the industry thinks is they're so worried about losing money by, like they're so stingy with what they might lose, that they hold back. And there's a lot of artists like myself who, yes, okay, I'm with you on the merch. Yes. So what I would like to do is release this record, and I've already got a few others lined up in different genres. And when you purchase the direct to consumer version, then you can get the merch and the vinyl, and you can compare the original recorded masters to the final versions, like extra Easter eggs and goodies that I'm not making available on Spotify because people don't buy nothing off Spotify. And
Mm,
I don't want to spend so much time trying to do everything the right way and wind up doing nothing at all.
mhm.
It took me a lifetime to get this done the right way. So
Wow.
first the album, then the merch.
And yeah, and
Yes,
be sure that we're around to support you through that. So
I
when
appreciate it.
we
You've
just
been with me even through the side quests when I've done some strange side quests. You remember when Andre 3000 made that flute album and nobody understood why is he making a flute album? I understood. I still don't. I don't rock with that record. I don't hate it. I listened to it, but it wasn't about the record. He
Mhm,
needed to heal. He needed to be able to say, "Look, I need to be able to decide what I want to do when I want to do it, not cater to the pressures of the industry when everybody's looking for this follow-up record." He
mhm,
fell in love with this particular sound and this instrument and said, "You know what? I'm doing that." The same way
mhm,
that Lauryn Hill said, "You know what? I know I should be following up my record with this thing, but I'm going to do the unplugged." I hated it. I thought she should have paid her producers, but history was kind to her because now when you listen back in context to that old unplugged acoustic record, there was a cry for
mhm,
help in there,
mm,
and you can appreciate things in hindsight, and that usually
mhm.
means you're ahead of your time. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I'm way beyond my time, and taken up enough of your time. But I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah, yeah. No, we
and
I
everyone
love
who's taking the
I
time.
love Jump Plug, but we Lorena will schedule to bring you back when just album release day,
Yeah.
and we
Awesome.
listen to it live, do and go count it down, and then share links to where everything can be purchased and updates as well. Where should people track you down to get the latest information?
Yes. Well, you see on the bottom of the screen there, you've got the YouTube page. I'll be posting things on, but also my IG, my Instagram, and Facebook is my actual name. The Instagram is Shawn Kurt Rivera. If you just type in Shawn Rivera as yet, any search engine, all of the stuff shows up. It's really easy. It's spelled like it sounds. My mom was hooked on phonics. I just have to give a shout out to my wife and kids, all of yous. I love yous. And thank you for being with me and for me. Thank you to everyone who's taken the time to pick this interview apart. And by all means, please drag me in the comments. It's good for engagement. Downvotes count too,
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
got to
yeah.
support any way we can, man.
Okay, just as we wrap up, Lorena, final word to you.
Well, I just want to say thank you to you, Sean, for giving us all those Easter eggs and behind the scenes stories about the album and your time with As Yet. So I'm very thankful and grateful. And congratulations on 30 years celebrating this album. We're going to keep talking about it. Definitely.
Mhm.
So you could get your, I don't know what you said, 0.0005
Hmm.
on the
Hmm.
album. So yeah, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate this.
Yes,
Thank you. Uh,
yes.
you're going places.
Oh,
I'm knowing. I'm knowing. You have a keen insight and wisdom and wit beyond your years, I say, and great taste in music.
Yes, she's a good one, and she's gonna be at the Grammys tomorrow, so
Hey.
we're looking forward to seeing you.
virtually, I'll be there.
Yay! You at
Uh-huh.
the
See, I knew you were
Grammys.
going places. I didn't know those were the places.
You're gonna be at the Grammys and stuff.
Okay.
Everyone, we appreciate you guys watching. John, glad to see that you stuck around. And John, we need to bring you back on. Maybe okay, it'll be good. We'll get an album that both you and Sean are really into. Then the four of us could talk through that album as
Right.
well. Yes, I always appreciate you, John, and definitely Sean. And yes, so guys, we appreciate everybody. I am about to close this, but I'll have Sean and Lorena hold on during this ending. So we'll catch you guys.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of Halftime Chat. Please remember to subscribe, share, and comment. But most importantly, why don't you become a member of Halftime Chat? We've got amazing videos, amazing perks, and being able to support the channel. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care.
I never participated in that category.
And somewhere in between
us for even loving us, on which I did miss you really.
What was it like growing up?
she's still making an impact on 4 houses down.
I have a couple of pieces.
Trying to get this one and that one.
That works for you, but just for me,
Oh, I probably
No, okay, okay.
They don't understand what Jodeci's voice meant in all spirits.